looking to connect a region of over 600 new bridges between our lands.
Good evening, I'm Alma Angeles, and you're watching ASEAN in Focus. On today's headlines. President Marcos Jr. stressed the importance of improving the standard operating procedures for the distribution of assistance to victims of natural disasters. The former severe tropical storm Paeng killed at least 121 persons across the country, with 92 confirmed so far by the National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Council. South Korean police admits their emergency response to a deadly Halloween crush that killed at least 156 people had been insufficient, with top officials saying crowd management failures had likely contributed to the disaster. China and Vietnam agreed to properly manage territorial disputes in the South China Sea, rounding off a leaders' meeting in Beijing as part of a diplomatic blitz by Chinese President Xi Jinping. First in our news, President Marcos Jr. stressed the importance of improving the standard operating procedures, or SOPs, for the distribution of assistance to victims of natural disasters. The President, in a situation briefing in Datu Odinsin Suat, Maguindanao del Norte, said the SOPs must be more efficient to ensure the immediate release of aid to displaced individuals. Let's listen in.
We will have to improve the SOP. I will tell you a story about what I experienced in Yolanda. In Yolanda, I remember yung pinsan ko, is the mayor, Alfred Romualdez is the mayor of Yolanda. May kwento siya na yung staff niya humingi ng relief pack sa DSWD noon. Hinanapan siya ng, I don't know what, ng barangay clearance or something. Hindi siya binigyan kasi hindi siya tiga Tacloban. She lived just outside Tacloban. All they gave her was one bottle of water. Now, tapos another time, dumadaan ako, may nakita ako nakapila, may nagbibigay ng relief goods. Sabi ko, anong ginagawa ninyo? Sabi ko, nakapila, may hawak kaming ticket. Bakit kayo may ticket? Kasi yung binibigay ng barangay captain, kung wala kaming ticket, hindi kami magbibigay, hindi kami bibigyan ng relief goods. Pinuntahan ko yung barangay captain. Sabi ko, bakit may ticket? Sabi niya, baka magdoble. Ano kung magdoble? Bigay nyo na rin lahat. Just give everything. Hindi yayaman ba yung tao na meron nakadoble siya na food pack? Hindi yayaman. It just means he will eat, the family will eat for another 2 days, 3 days. So, wag na natin masyadong intindihin yung bureaucracy. Basta paratingin natin yung relief, alam mo, naghihingalo yung tao eh. Life and death na sa kanila ito eh. So, wag na tayo mag-antay na may ticket, wag na tayo mag-antay na puntahan na lang natin, basta ibigay natin. Kung hindi magamit, dalhin natin sa ibang lugar. But we have to make our SOPs more efficient. The LGUs have a bit of may advantage sila sa inyo dahil matagal na nilang ginagawa ito. Kaya may mga procedure na. Which is actually, as governors, binibigay din sa atin yan ng binibigay din sa amin yan ng national government. So let's just follow those procedures. Bilisan na lang natin. The point of all these relief goods is to get as much relief goods as to rescue immediately, as much relief goods as wag na nating intindihin. There is no such thing as sobra na relief goods. No such thing. Kung ano yung meron tayo, bigay natin kagad. Ibigay natin kagad. At it doesn't matter kung may papel, kung huwag niyo nang papirmahan, basta bigay na, bigay na. Walang kakainin yung mga yan.
Now, after the situation briefing, the President led the relief efforts for victims of severe tropical storm Paeng that hit the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao or BARM. He distributed the food packs and assistance to the victims who are currently taking temporary shelter in one of the evacuation centers in Datu Odiensin, Suat, Maguindanao del Norte. In his speech, the President also said concerned government agencies would continue providing assistance to ensure the fast recovery of disaster victims. The President said the government would also grant cash aid worth between 5,000 and 10,000 pesos to help them rebuild their homes. President Marcos Jr. also emphasized the need to distribute emergency supplies of medicines to the victims of severe tropical storm Paeng. In the same situation briefing in Datu Odiensin, Suat, Maguindanao del Norte, the President acknowledged that typhoon victims are asking for medicine kits as he instructed the Department of Social Welfare and Development to facilitate the distribution of medicines needed by those displaced by the typhoon.
But also we will have to supply kasi naghahanap yung tao ng gamot. That's one aspect of it na hindi natin masyadong na-attentionan eh. Paano tayo makapag-provide ng gamot? Yun, like the governor by Mariam is saying, simple lang naman eh. Yung mga, kasi nakabilad sila o nandun sila sa basa sila na matagal, linalagnat yung mga bata. Yung ating mga doktor na para immediate pumunta muna sa evacuation center para ma-determine.
Yes, sir, we can do that.
Kasi ang tropa natin nandito na eh. When siguro pwede nating unahan, wag na nating antayin yung mga prescribed medicine. Magdala na tayo ng yung mga simple lang, yung mga para sa sipon, yung para sa ubo, para sa sirang tiyan, para all the common ailments that can be cured by non-prescription medicines. So isama na natin yun. Then we work in coordination with the military doctors and medical workers para para mabilis. It keeps coming up. Hindi pa natin nasagot yung challenge na yun eh. With that, we can make arrangements with the big drug companies.
Yes, sir.
Para yung bilhin natin in bulk, makamura tayo, and then we can use it. But we will still have to come up with an SOP for the prescribed medicines. Pero yung mga matatanda, yung mga maintenance, delikado talaga sila. Pagka mga 1 week na silang hindi nagagamot, it starts to really affect them. So let's put together an SOP for that.
President Marcos said it was also vital to establish a district office in BARM to ensure the immediate repair of damaged infrastructure. He issued a statement after Mr. Sanrimbo informed him that the National Office of the Department of Public Works and Highways, particularly its Project Management Office, is in charge of the repairs of national roads and bridges. The creation of the DPWH's office, Marcos said, would enable the BARM to effectively and efficiently respond to emergency situations. Now, the former severe tropical storm Paeng killed at least 121 persons across the country, with 92 confirmed dead so far by the National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Council. In its update today, the agency said 61 deaths were recorded in the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao, 28 in Western Visayas, and 3 in Soxargen. Mylene Sapi is staring at a mass grave for 7 members of her family who were killed when a landslide triggered by tropical storm Nalgi or Paeng buried their village. But it may not be the last burial. Sapi's 1-year-old child remains missing, feared dead.
Sana po makikita siya kahit patay man po siya o buhay para lang po mabigyan siya ng maayos na libingan, ganun po. Ito po kasi yung bahay namin, hindi namin akalain na masasali sa madadala sa tubig, baha. Tapos pagka po mga ilang oras lang, nadala na po yung bahay namin, nagkahiwalay-hiwalay na po kami. Nagsisigawan po. Tapos nag-brown out pa po yun. Kidlat lang po talaga yung ilaw namin, malalaman namin kung saan dadaan yung tubig.
But we have still to be determined the name of the some casualty that we have, that because right now meron pa tayong mga unclaimed casualty or death in the area of Dato Udin Sinswat.
Gov, nagagamit nyo ba yung K9 para hanapin yung missing? Meron tayo mga...
Yes, sir. With the help of the 6th Infantry Division Commander, we have 4 K9.
Good. Yun ang nakahanap talaga nila. Kahit patay na, at least nakahanap pa nila. Okay, good.
Now, Philippine rescuers waded through thigh-deep mud using long pieces of wood to search for bodies buried by the landslide. The Philippine Coast Guard posted pictures and videos on Facebook showing its personnel in devastated Cusiong village in Maguindanao del Norte province of Mindanao. As you can see here, they're struggling through thick thigh-deep mud and water as they searched for more bodies. In tonight's Southern News, South Korean police admitted their emergency response to a deadly Halloween crush that killed at least 156 had been insufficient, with top officials saying crowd management failures had likely contributed to the disaster. Meanwhile, Seoul Mayor Oh Si-hyun also made a public apology, weeping as he said he felt infinitely responsible for this accident. Let's take a look.
오늘 아침에 먼저 시민의 생명과 안전을 책임지는 서울특별시장으로서 이번 사고에 대해 무한한 책임을 느끼며 깊은 사과의 말씀을 드립니다. 서울시에서는 모든 장례 절차가 마무리되고 유가족과 부상자 그리고 이번 사고로 슬픔을 느끼고 계신 모든 시민분들이 일상을 회복할 수 있을 때까지 모든 행정력을 투입해서 최선을 다하겠습니다.
사고가 발생하기 직전에 현장의 심각성을 알리는 112 신고가 다수 있었던 것을 확인하였습니다. 그럼에도 불구하고 112 신고를 처리하는 현장의 대응은 미흡했다는 판단을 했습니다.
The first thing I think that might be important in all this kind of disaster was that some kind of lack of full expertise in crowd management. With the police, our overall system is that police cannot work in a central way in that kind of crowd management. So we should completely change the system so that police can play required roles in that kind of crowd management.
An estimated 100,000 people flocked to the popular Itaewon Bar district. But because it was not an official event with a designated organizer, neither the police nor local authorities were actively managing the crowd. By mid-afternoon on October 29, tens of thousands of people, many in Halloween costumes, are flooding into Itaewon's narrow streets. By 8:30 p.m., the alleyway at the epicenter of the crush is packed. Some partygoers are already sustaining injuries due to the crowd density. At 9:16 p.m., a live streamer goes to a police station about 10 meters from the alley, warning that the crowd is dangerously dense. Police ignored her, she says in a stream that she later deletes. At 10 p.m., people at the top of the sloping alleyway next to the Hamilton Hotel started falling over, according to eyewitnesses. People at the bottom of the slope cannot exit due to crowds coming the other direction out of Itaewon subway station, exits 1 and 2, and out of the Hamilton Hamilton Hotel main entrance. Calls from people reporting difficulty breathing keep coming in, more than 81 requests for help by 10:43 p.m., at which point authorities declared a first-stage emergency response order. The Interior Ministry said 153 people had died, including 20 foreigners, in the stampede which occurred at around 10 p.m. local time. The Interior Ministry said the 20 foreigners killed included people from the U.S., Uzbekistan, Austria, Norway, Vietnam, Kazakhstan, Iran, and Sri Lanka. Most of the victims were young women in their 20s, adding that 133 people were injured. No Filipinos have so far been reported among the casualties. There are over 50,000 Filipinos living and working in South Korea, but as the country reopened its borders and eased restrictions, more Filipino tourists have also started coming in. In other news, North Korea fired more than 10 missiles today, including one that landed close to South Korea's waters that President Yoon Suk-yeol said was effectively a territorial invasion. One short-range ballistic missile crossed the northern limit line, the de facto maritime border between the two countries, prompting a rare warning for residents on the island of Ulleungdo to seek shelter in bunkers. An air raid warning was issued for Ulleungdo after the North Korean missile launch. The alert was flashed on national television and told residents to evacuate to the nearest underground shelter. The South Korean military's Joint Chiefs of Staff initially said it detected the launch of 3 short-range ballistic missiles, but it later announced that North Korea had fired more than 10 missiles of various types today towards the east and west. The military said it was the first time since the peninsula was divided at the end of the Korean War hostilities in 1953 that a North Korean missile had landed so close to the South's territorial waters. President Yoon pointed out today that North Korea's provocation is an effective territorial invasion by a missile that crossed the northern limit line for the first time since the division, according to his office in a statement. It added that the military vowed to respond firmly to this provocation. In tonight's other news, China and Vietnam agreed to properly manage territorial disputes in the South China Sea, rounding off a leaders' meeting in Beijing as part of a diplomatic blitz by Chinese President Xi Jinping. The socialist neighbors both maintain sweeping claims to sovereignty in much of the contested waterway, parts of which are also claimed by Taiwan, the Philippines, Malaysia, and Brunei. Trillions of dollars in shipborne trade passes through the South China Sea each year, and naval vessels from the U.S. and other Western nations regularly sail through it, though Beijing has ignored an international court ruling that it claims have no legal basis. President Xi and Chinese leaders met with Vietnam's Communist Party General Secretary Nguyen Phu Trong in Beijing, holding an in-depth and candid exchange of views on maritime issues, according to a readout on Tuesday from Chinese state news agency Xinhua. Beijing and Hanoi agreed to properly handle maritime issues and contribute to long-term peace and stability in the region. They also agreed to work together to counter terrorism crackdown on transnational fraud and rein in the illegal drugs trade, according to the report. Beijing has asserted its territorial claims more aggressively under President Xi, building artificial islands, deploying Coast Guard and maritime militia patrols, and harassing fishing vessels. Finance ministers and high-level representatives from the 21 APEC member economies convened in Bangkok against the backdrop of an adverse global environment where recovery from the pandemic remains fragile and rising inflation is necessitating financial tightening all over the world and the increasing risk of climate change. Under the theme of advancing digitalization, achieving sustainability, Thailand's Minister of Finance and the chair of the 2022 APEC Finance Ministers meeting, Arkom Termimtiapai Sith, stressed the importance of striking a balance between growth and taking care of the environment, highlighting that digitalization and sustainability will be the key to APEC's prosperity. Take a look.
Considering the prevailing economic outlook,
APEC economies reaffirm the positive role of macroeconomic and structural policies to achieve strong, balanced, inclusive, innovative, creative, and sustainable growth to raise living standards in the region. Secure, efficiency, affordable access to sustainable finance for all sectors is paramount for an inclusive and sustainable economic growth. Economies are to take actions in support of global effort to address environmental challenges, including climate change, and APEC economies look forward to continue progress in mobilizing global climate finance. APEC economies stressed the importance of fully harnessing the power of digitalization for fiscal policy and inclusive finance, including reducing the digital divide between different socio-economic groups. APEC economies also welcome the completion of related policy recommendation papers, which provided suggestions on how digitalization can be utilized in promoting cross-border payment and in implementing fiscal measures. APEC economies welcome the OECD ongoing effort in addressing the tax challenges arising from the globalization and digitalization of the world economy via a two-pillar international tax package consisting of a partial reallocation of taxing rights to market jurisdictions and global minimum corporate tax rule, and call for its finalization.
Meeting at the Queen's Sirikit National Convention Center, where APEC Economic Leaders Week will be held in November, Finance Minister deliberated about inflationary pressure, among other things, how to direct stimulus measures from COVID-19 to long-term growth drivers while maintaining fiscal sustainability. Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation, or APEC, is a forum of 21 Asia-Pacific economies. APEC's member economies are home to more than 2.9 billion people and make up over 60% of global GDP. APEC's 21 member economies are Australia, Brunei Darussalam, Canada, Chile, Chinese, Taipei, Hong Kong, China, Indonesia, Japan, Malaysia, Mexico, New Zealand, Papua New Guinea, People's Republic of China, Peru, Republic of Korea, the Republic of the Philippines, the Russian Federation, Singapore, Thailand, US, and Vietnam. Aviation industry leaders are warning that travelers must brace for even higher ticket prices as the sector battles fallout from the pandemic, high oil prices, and conflict fears. International Air Transport Association Director General Willie Walsh also said that airlines' recovery would be delayed if China maintains its COVID travel clampdown into next year. Take a look.
Our fuel is a significant element of an airline's cost base. If that goes up, the only way that airlines can cover it is to have that higher oil price reflected in ticket prices, which is what, in fact, I think we are seeing in the current year and are likely to see in 2023. In 2023, China remains closed, then it clearly will have an impact on the overall strength of the recovery. So Hong Kong has lost its position as a global hub and will struggle to regain it because other hubs have taken advantage of it.
Meanwhile, Cathay Pacific shared the next development of its One Ticket, One Tree initiative with the announcement of a Southeast Asia-wide initiative that will see trees planted in various mangrove forests across the region. The initiative announced at a tree planting event organized by Cathay Pacific at the Taman Wisata Alam Mangrove, Angkit Kapuk, Indonesia, will see the airline plant a tree for every ticket purchased on its website from Indonesia, Singapore, Thailand, Malaysia, the Philippines, Vietnam, and Cambodia from November 1 to the 30th of this year. This is part of Cathay Pacific's sustainability efforts in supporting local communities, ecological restoration, and climate resilience. One Ticket, One Tree was launched last year in Thailand, one of Cathay Pacific's key destinations in Southeast Asia. A similar initiative, Join for Trees, was rolled out earlier this year in Indonesia and the Philippines, where the airline committed to plant a tree for every new member sign up. With both these efforts combined, Cathay Pacific has committed to plant more than 1,700 trees in the mangrove forests of Thailand, Indonesia, and the Philippines. And the 7th ASEAN Heritage Parks Conference, or AHP7, kicked off in Bali, Indonesia, and gathered park managers, committee members, and other key stakeholders for discussions on further strengthening the network of the best protected areas in ASEAN. His Excellencies Igor Drismans, EU Ambassador to the ASEAN, and Dato Lim Jock Hoi, ASEAN Secretary General, said that after seeing the ravages of COVID-19, it's now important to give importance on the restoration of biodiversity, an important frontier in the management of zoonotic disease risk. Take a look.
This year's conference, under the theme Healing Nature and People, the role of AHPs in ecosystem protection and pandemic recovery, resonates with the EU's and ASEAN's shared vision that protecting and restoring biodiversity is key to improve livelihoods, better resilience, and also to prevent the emergence and spread, as you have said, of infectious diseases. ASEAN Heritage Parks can play a significant role in ecosystem protection and pandemic recovery. BCAMP provides significant support for the evaluation of nominated sites and also for enhancing their management and for building financial sustainability. To date, if I'm not mistaken, there are 51 AHPs. 15 of the 19 nominated sites that were supported by BCAM have been declared as AHP in the ASEAN member states. But we cannot rest on these achievements now, because the pace of biodiversity loss remains dramatic.
COVID-19 was a stark reminder of how biodiversity loss and ecosystem degradation has made protected area more vulnerable to emerging and re-emerging zoonotic diseases, which in turn pose significant threat to human health. As such, the implementation of the ASEAN Comprehensive Recovery Framework emphasized the importance of a cross-sectoral, cross-pillar approach that addresses this issue, as well as ensure that ASEAN emerges stronger and more resilient from the pandemic. In addressing these challenges, ASEAN has been successful in shaping a common policy framework for sustainability and resilience by integrating diverse perspectives to achieve the ASEAN Vision 2025 and beyond. The ASEAN Heritage Parks program is a key part of our efforts to enhance biodiversity conservation in the region and covers forest, marine, and transboundary protected area. I'm pleased to note that since its inception in 1984, we have received continuous support to expand and improve the Milestones program. AHP is now a privileged title for any park or protected area in ASEAN, as it demonstrates the strong commitment to protecting and preserving natural heritage, as well as possible efforts to slow down the rate of biodiversity loss.
Forest cover in Indonesia, approximately 95 million hectares, or about 51% of the total land area of 187 million hectares. The size of Indonesia forest cover is certainly a carbon reservoir that acts as a main capital in environmental protection and climate. Currently, There are 568 protected areas, including 55 national parks in Indonesia.
ASEAN Heritage Parks, or AHPs, are protected areas of high conservation importance, preserving in total a complete spectrum of representative ecosystems of the ASEAN region. Now, these areas are established to generate greater awareness, pride, appreciation, enjoyment, and conservation of ASEAN's rich natural heritage through a regional network of representative protected areas, and to generate greater collaboration among the ASEAN member states in preserving their shared natural heritage. As my usual habit, I'd like to end the day on a positive note. Let's encourage and build each other up so that no one is left behind. And that's it for tonight's broadcast of ASEAN in Focus. We'll see you back tomorrow. I'm Alma Angeles, and we live in extraordinary times.